Hey everyone, and welcome back. It's Wednesday at 12:15, so it's the Orlando Homeowners Show, and I'm excited for today's episode with Desmond Pollack. I've known Desmond for several years in the real estate game, and most recently, he shifted his talents into wholesaling and finding off-market properties to wholesale for a profit and to build his investment portfolio. So if you've been intrigued about how that works, stay tuned. We'll be with Desmond for the next 30 minutes. Take care. Mr. Desmond, welcome to the Orlando Homeowners Show, man. How are you?
I'm amazing. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. I love is that the default here? I just put you out of frame. Let me put you back in. Is that your default answer or something happening specifically in this season of real estate that makes it amazing?
Well, I mean, it's a great year, and I mean, it's been great in real estate, as I'm sure everybody's knowing with this market and everything. So lots of successes there. But amazing is my default answer because I believe too many people answer just okay or good.
Yeah, good, man. Well, that's a part of the mindset which goes to your success. So we're jumping on here today. You have gone and gotten into wholesaling for properties. So before we get
Yes.
into how you started and what that looks like or your formula, back it back a little bit of give us your CNN resume of who are you so people can know why they should be listening to you right now.
Sure. So my name is Desmond. I own a company here locally called Encore Home Offer. Currently, we are wholesaling properties. We do anything from Tampa all the way up to Jacksonville. So we cover pretty much all of Central Florida, all the way out to the beach, all the way up to Jacksonville. So we cover a pretty large area investments. I actually personally purchase properties, flip properties, and refinance, cash out, refinance, keep properties for rental. So we actually own a holding company as well, Encore Holdings, to where we actually have a company portfolio as well. And just a quick reference of me. I mean, last year, for instance, we did 86 investment deals.
86 investment deals. Now, these specifically are wholesale deals or everything from what you held to flipped to wholesaled?
That would be everything.
Everything. Okay. So total transaction,
Yep.
86 deals last year. And is that what's your goal this year? What's your intention? What's your plan for Encore?
So our goal this year is to, and truly with wholesaling and a lot of these investments, I know a lot of other ways people count units and a lot of that, we do not count units. Truly, that's not the real main metric in our business. Really, it's revenue and assignment fees that we get from properties. So our goal this year is 1.6 million in revenue from our investment business.
In revenue, which would be your gross commission income or your gross margin off of wholesales.
Yes, right? Pretty much. Yes.
Perfect. All right, so let's get into a little bit of we're talking to the Orlando homeowner. Now, we say Orlando, we've got people from all over who might listen to this. So they're really the homeowner. And specifically, if they're thinking about getting into investing and they're wondering, how do we do it? The MLS, does it have deals out there? Sure, it has some deals out there. Yet we also know that once the MLS is out there, you've got every single eyeball that's interested looking at it versus wholesale. It's a lot tougher to find it. You're putting your work on the front end to identify people raising their hands. Yet if you can get those people identified, that's where you can find that opportunity. Talk to us about Wholesale 101. How does this exactly work?
So Wholesale 101, a really, really just overall synopsis of it is my job is to identify people who need to sell their property and need to sell it fast for cash most of the time. And how we do this is multiple. So first off, I'm sure, as you know, just about everything in your life is public record. Everything that happens in your life. So what we're doing is we're actually pulling a compilation of public records of people, a certain amount of equity they have in the house, maybe a certain point, a certain pain point, maybe their taxes, they haven't been able to pay their taxes, their utility cutoffs, all these different types of situations, liens. And we put together a list of these people. Now, what I personally do with our list, and a lot of these other companies that may sell realtors leads of potential sellers, all they're doing is just putting together a collection of public data. So what we do is we stack our list. So I'm pulling all of these tax delinquents, I'm pulling all these people who have liens, all these people who have high equity, all these people who are absentee, and I'm stacking them in. And let's say I throw in 50,000 records into my spreadsheet, and it'll pop out, let's say 10,000 records for me where it says like, hey, these people are going through X, X, and X. These are probably the ones you should talk to. And then from there, we just market to them. Now, we do that through Google pay-per-click ads, Facebook ads, direct mail, all those types of things. We're reaching out to people and seeing if they might be interested in selling their property. Never do we ever harass them by any means,
Mhm.
but we're reaching out to them to see if they have a need for our service. And that's what's been proven successful for us. After we get it under contract, we have a list of, if we're not buying it ourselves, and keep in mind, I do purchase properties myself as well and do the rehabs or keep them as rentals. But if I'm not purchasing it for myself, we have a list of investors that we work with. That list right now is hanging out right around 6,000 investors that we work with here locally. And they come through and they just buy the property from us. And usually we'll make the spread in between compared to what we have it under contract with the homeowner and what we're selling it to the investor for. Our average fee for this past quarter was $23,000 per property.
All right, I am writing this down because now I want to unpack this a little bit. First off, if there's someone listening who would like to be the 6,001st person on your investor list, how can they do that? How can they get a hold of you guys, or what would you like to do there?
Sure. So you can reach out to me directly. I'm more than happy to share my cell phone number. My email address is desmond@myencoreteam.com. Feel free to reach out to me that way. I'd be more than happy to add you on. Our buyer site is actually a little bit under maintenance right now. We did have a site which was kind of like a page you can go in there, look at our deals, and go in there and sign up for our buyers list. Unfortunately, that has to go through a little bit of maintenance right now, but we'll have that back up shortly. And that website would be encorehomeoffer.com.
Encore Home Offer, and did I get your email correct there, Desmond at my Encore Team, ENCORE?
Correct. That is, you got it.
Right on. I saw your eyes scrolling as it's going down at the bottom. If you're listening to this on podcast right now, we have it scrolling at the bottom. But if you're listening and can't see it, we'll make sure we put it in the notes there. So I'm an analytical person. You know this, Desmond, and if you're listening to
Yes.
this, you know that I'm always going to break it down and look for a model or a system that can create duplicatable and scalable results. Right? If you
Sure.
want to go from 86 to 860, if you have duplicatable and scalable results, then the formula would be, instead of identifying 50, go identify 500,000. Just add a zero to it. Um, is
Yep.
it is it that predictable in your terms of ratios of expectations? Obviously, any given target ad will give you different results, but overall, are you seeing a pretty predictable return?
Yeah, it's a pretty predictable return. So one thing that I pride myself on is I track my numbers like an absolute madman. Like an absolute madman. And for instance, with a direct mail campaign, I know on average, if I send out 10,000 pieces, that I'll get about a 0.74 return ratio. That means 0.74% of the postcards I sent out, those people will reach out to me. Now you understand this is a quantities game. So I was sending out 10,000 postcards. Let's say 74 people reach back out to me. Now I know from those 74 people that call in, I know that our average conversion ratio on a direct mail campaign is 1 in every 23 calls will usually turn out to a deal for us. So again, there are going to be small fluctuations, but we're always in that range of that 20 to 25 leads per call, let's say, for that specific channel. And I know that, and I plan around that depending on how many deals I want, how many postcards I send out, and how many return calls I will be expecting.
So again, let's chunk this down. If you're at home or wherever you're at, take notes for me if this is something you're intrigued with, because you're going to create at least your business plan and model. And Desmond, I want to just thank you again, because you're an open book. You told me you're an open book. You're literally giving, could be your competitors, your playbook,
Yeah.
because of that abundance mindset. So, man, we appreciate that. So
Yeah.
you send out 10,000 postcards.
Yes.
74 people say, tell me more. Of
Yep.
those 74, they're reaching out to you, so you're lead receiving at that point, and you'll
Yes.
convert 1 out of 23. So essentially get 3 of those deals on 10,000.
Exactly. And for an average spread of $23,000, my postcard campaign usually costs me around 47 cents per postcard. No. Yes, around 47 cents per postcard, actually.
Okay.
So let's say it costs me around $4,700 to send those postcards out. I'll get 3 deals back in for an average return of $23,000 per deal. So let's say for that $5,000 investment, I'm taking home around like $60,000.
60 to 70. Yeah, rinse and
Yeah.
repeat that. So what's stopping you from just adding 2 zeros or 3 zeros to that? Is it structure of the team? Because to me, that's a winning formula, and we've almost have that duh moment that says, "Hey, Desmond, I got a deal for you. Give me $5 and I'll give you 60 back. You want to take that deal?"
Yeah. Yeah. I think anybody would.
All right, then I'll give you 50, give me 600 for you. It's give me 5,000, I'll give you 60,000. So why aren't you
Yep.
doing give me 50,000 and give me back 600,000? Is that a capacity thing?
Yeah, so right now it's actually capacity. So, like I said, we're in Tampa and we're doing in Jacksonville as well, and we're doing fantastic in those markets. But as I reach out to more and more markets, I need more and more people to service in those markets because ultimately, when we're buying a property, us or our acquisition team sits right here in Orlando. We are not actually going to the properties. We're actually interviewing them from over the phone and making an offer and getting a contract accepted from over the phone. Now, what still needs to happen is though somebody I do still need to see what that property looks like. And although it won't be me personally, I have not seen one of the homes we sold in at least 6 months.
Yep.
Um, we have to send somebody out there who's going to take the pictures, get in there and run the numbers for us, get us the bids and stuff. And so it's a capacity thing about how far I can reach. And it's also a capacity about, I get a great return on the people that are calling back in, but understand it's a very targeted list. And eventually you're going to run out of those super targeted people in a certain area. So as I go to more and more areas, I kind of have a cap in that market for the
Yep.
amount of, let's say, particular targets that I'm looking for.
So it is not only capacity with your infrastructure of your team, also a capacity of geographical, of just there's only so many people to give these mailers to. Now let me
Yeah.
jump in a little bit to you have 50,000, it spits out 10. So 50,000 people that hit hit one of your criteria boxes. How
Mm-hmm.
and what is analyzed that down to 10? Is that something you created? Is that a third party system that analyzes it, or who's doing it? Because 50,000 is a lot of data points to scrutinize. How are you getting down to 10?
Yeah, sure. So I use a very simple system. There's a number of these systems out here, and it's basically a list stacker. Now, the one that I personally use is called batchleads.io. That's the actual website for it. That is the list
Badge
stacker I use.
leads,
Batch,
badgeleads.io.
batch, BATCH.
Batch leads, thank you. BATCHLEADS.io.
Correct. That's the
Yep.
list stacker that we use. There's another one, liststacker.com, I believe it is, or property list stacker. And all these things are doing is you're just inputting different lists and it's cross referencing them to see, okay, well, this person's on this, and this list,
Yep.
and
Yep.
spitting it back out to me.
Are they also giving you the correct data? So if you find something that's, whether it's probate or tax lien or whatever else it might be, that you identify their phone number, email, or are you just going direct mail and saying there's property address and say current homeowner? Are you interested?
Great question. So, well, first off, I don't pull data from Batch. Batch I'm only using for stacking. Now,
Yep.
the actual source that I pull for the data, the source for that is called propstream.com. And if you are not familiar with PropStream, especially as a realtor, it's probably one of the most powerful real estate tools that you could ever have. And what it is basically a giant collection of public data, nationwide public data, and just about everything as far as public data goes on a specific properties. I mean, I can go as far down as to tell that if I'm in a certain area, I can look to see who's filed for divorce and they own a property that they're going to need to sell here soon. I can drill down to extremely far to that point. And with PropStream, and it's $97 a month for their basic package, you get 10,000 leads that you can pull out there and build a list of 10,000 right there with that. It is by far and large one of the most inexpensive things in my business, but absolutely brings me the highest return is propstream.com. It is an amazing tool. Anyways, enough about that. So that's what we use to actually compile the data. Then from there, we put it into our batchleads.io. Now, Batch does do the skip tracing for us. So we actually do pull phone numbers and we also reach out and call people as well. But that's what we get through Batch. And again, there's not going to be any perfect skip trace system by any means. It's
Sure.
impossible for that to happen. But I'm honestly looking at around I think it's the 92% hit ratio that I get off of that.
Yeah,
So
I love
pretty
that.
good.
Now, do you have somebody running your numbers for you, or is that you because you're just that high D and take ownership? Or because you've got 93%, you've got 0.74%, you are analyzing. And if I'm talking to someone, whether they're starting off running a big operation, that seems like you have a full operation department behind you. How many, and I guess this is a long question, what sort of salary team do you have supporting this front end of pulling data, pulling it out, sending out, creating postcards? What does that look like?
So we have two people,
Okay.
a director of operations, and we do have an executive administrative person as well.
Okay.
So we have
So
two people,
two
and
people are doing this at the capacity, and if you wanted to add more, and scalable. So it's not every 5,000 postcards is one person, because it is scalable, because so much of the work's already done there. Talk to me about Google ads and Facebook ads, because that, yes, there's calls to action.
yes,
Let's say you identify me. I get a postcard in the mail. So here's a postcard. And then I also am browsing, and then I see Encore show up and say, "Do you want to sell your house?" And then I'm over here
hmm
on Facebook and my social feed over there. And all of a sudden, is it just for branding, or are you seeing people call you in response to Google and Facebook? Or is it you need all three to get that 0.74?
great question. So that 0.74 actually only applies to direct mail. I have individual numbers for Google. Now with Google, keep in mind Google is my third highest source of business. My third highest source of business. Now we run what's called pay-per-click ads, PPC. And with those PPC ads, they're very leading off to a one-pager website. Again, going back to EncoreHomeOffer.com. That's basically advertising for them to get an offer for their home. They're punching in their information. Now I know that we spend around in the range of like $6,000 to $8,000 a month in Google. But I know that my average lead cost in Google is dangling right around $170 per lead in Google. And I know from those leads that come in, Google's a much more higher converting source for us. Google leads, we close 1 in every 7 Google leads that come in. 1 in
Right.
every 7 of
I
them
want to
close for us.
repeat just so I can make sure I'm there. You spend 6 to 8,000 doing pay-per-click. The
Yes,
leads you get back cost you about $170 per lead, which
correct.
tells me of that 7,000, you just divide that by 170, it's generating about 41 leads a month.
Yes.
And of that, you're converting 1 out of 7, so you're converting about 5 to 6 appointments from Google. For
Contracts. But yes, we
contracts,
don't run
okay.
appointments.
So if we say 6 contracts for 6,000, essentially you're paying 1,000 to get 23,000 back.
Correct.
Pay per click, you're paying 500 to get that back, right? Um,
hmm
which is why your returns there. And again, if we just talk about, hey, do you want to trade? Give me $1,000, I'll give you $23,000 back. You're gonna go, yep, let's do that.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Facebook, tell me about that.
Facebook, and so Facebook is probably one of my lowest sources of business. Just with Facebook, and I've just become so before, and I want to say this was about let's say early 2020. Facebook was a huge source for us because actually what played in our favor tremendously was that a lot of these big box people stopped buying. Your Zillow offers, your OfferPad, Open Door, they all stopped buying, and we actually ran specific ads around. Bring us your OfferPad offer, bring us your Open Door offer, and we'll follow through with the contract. So that was actually a huge campaign for us. We actually did really well with that campaign in buying houses at the OfferPad or Open Door prices that they had. And that was a huge source for us at that point in time. And at that point in time, and I don't remember the exact numbers for that, so forgive me that far back, but we were doing really well to the point now where Facebook now has dangled up to us. You know, we were up to around, it was like 40 or $50 per lead in Facebook, and I've scaled back Facebook tremendously. $40, $50 per lead in Facebook, but our conversion on those Facebook leads was pretty god awful. Like I think we were at somewhere around like 1 in 60, and it wasn't even really worth it for us to keep on shoveling that much money there. So now all we do with Facebook is retargeting. So we do a lot of retargeting. If you visit our website or anything like that, we're sending you out retargeting information, just kind of like a, hey, come back and check us out kind of deal. No more
Gotcha.
trying to aggressively go after sellers that way.
Sure. And I have to agree with that. With our Facebook, we scaled that back a lot. And what I realized was when people are on Facebook, they're not in the mindset of looking for real estate. They're in the mindset of looking at their grandkids' pictures or anything else out there. So
Yeah.
it's almost find them in this space that they're at when they're ready to do it. They're not going to screenshot it or move right there because they're at a traffic light or on a break
Yeah.
from work.
Yep.
I think it is more branding and telling a story. As we're here on Facebook Live, thank you, Facebook Live. Also YouTube. So, and now this work, like I said, big Google, right? Now this works. You say, let's just use me. So I get your
Okay.
postcard. I call you
Hmm.
up. You say, Rick, do you want to sell your house? We will give you a cash offer, close in 2 weeks. We will make it and don't have to worry about all the hassles and all the stress of dealing with this sale, whatever the stressor points might be, whether it's I don't want people walking in my house, or I
Yep.
live out of state and this is a relative who passed away, or I got a divorce. I didn't get a divorce. I loved my wife. We were very happy. It was a hypothetical situation, but I want to get the heck out of Dodge fast. Then you're coming in and going, you've got a pain point that you need a quick
Yep.
solution. I will make you an offer that makes sense to you. I'm not looking to rake you over the coals, but I am
Yep.
looking to make a profit. So let's say I've got
Absolutely.
a $300,000 house, and that's the as is retail value. What is
Okay.
a normal offer that you might do? Is it a formula driven? If you go as it sits, I can sell this for X. Do you have that number in mind?
So I can tell you that number just from my experience. What we personally use is we've developed a calculator
Okay.
that simply our acquisition agents, when they're going in there and they're talking to somebody, they're literally just punching in the numbers and certain amount of certain repairs, and it's pumping out for them an actual offer that they need to be at. And what that offer is giving them, it's giving them what's called, we call our investor price. And this is where we can sell the price at now. Now it's their job. They have to be below that price because obviously there has to be some sort of spread here. And we explain that to people. But let's say on a $300,000 house, I'm going to assume no repairs need to be done. I'm going to assume that it's as is. I can just come through and buy it and resell for 300,000. I'm probably going to be somewhere between 250 and 260
Okay.
on that house.
Which gives you your 23,000 because then you have paid title, then you
Yep.
have realtor fees, or I guess not with wholesale. So 250 to 260, and they may say yes because you're going, you know what? The market's blessed me. I bought this thing 12 years ago for 130. I'm happy with 260 and just call it a day, which is exactly what iBuyers do. You're an iBuyer at that point, right? It's an instant buy at
Exactly.
that point. The
So yeah,
difference
and
is, go ahead.
I was saying the term that we actually coined it, not us personally, but it's just been coined in the industry, is called wholetailing. I'm not sure if you ever heard of that term,
Nope.
but
Nope.
wholetailing is the process of, and we actually do this as well because you'd be surprised how many people come to me and I'll explain to them that we're a realtor. Legally, I have to disclose to them that I am a licensed agent. So I'm disclosing to them and I'm letting them know, like, hey, when I'm coming in, I can do two different things. I can list it for you and we can get you here, or we can sell it, or I can buy it from you for right now. And
Perfect.
for instance, I just did one in Windermere. I bought that one for $250,000 actually on the dot. Bought that one for $250,000. Ended up selling it again as is for $295,000. So it was about a $45,000 gross spread there. I ended up walking away out of that one with right at $28,000 in just about 35 days.
Love it. Now, do you I'm kind of going with of going, thank you for your house, sir. And there's a little checkbox on like page 2 or 3 that says may assign or may not assign, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're giving the contract that says I may assign this. So you give me an offer, and we're going to close on May 15th, 31 days from now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not closing yet, but we're under contract to close. Is that when you are looking to sell this to one of your 6,000 investors, right
Yes.
around May 15th?
So if I'm not the actual purchaser for it, this is when it'll go out to our investors.
Okay.
And through our investors, 95% of the properties that we sell are done sight unseen because we do such a comprehensive analysis of it.
Mm-hmm.
By that analysis, what do I mean? We're getting full 3D imaging of the house, pictures, video walkthrough of the house. I'm breaking down all the numbers, comparable sales, and everything to where I'm making it a very easy decision if you decide you want to pull the trigger on this. So 90 some odd percent of our houses get sold sight unseen, just like that, based on the numbers.
Well, and then so essentially it's May 15th. You actually never have to pay anything. You just play the
Correct, I don't.
intermediary. You're the connector.
Correct.
Do you assign that contract to somebody else and you go, you kids have fun? Or are you still involved with the closing? Like you're never
So
on
I
title, right?
definitely, nope, I'm never on title or anything, but I'm definitely still involved in just with both parties because one, I mean, the seller knows me, not the actual end buyer, and the end buyer knows me, not the actual seller.
Sure.
So I'm definitely there as an intermediary between the two and just making sure we're moving along just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but but aside from just, kind of pushing things forward and keeping everybody happy, that's all I'm doing.
So what's the risk? Why would somebody not do this in terms of when have you been burnt? When has the decision bit you that said, oops, don't want to do that again? That what are some failures you can share that a future wholesaler can learn from your mistakes right now?
Sure, there's definitely been properties that have come along up that maybe I've just been a little overzealous on. I mean, for instance, I have one under contract right now that's going to be closing in the next couple of days. And which money I'm going to make on that one? I'm going to make $1,000, and I barely had to squeeze that out,
Yeah.
just because it was tight and got a little overzealous. So you run into those deals. I've done flips with properties that I've taken down that we couldn't wholesale. Now, one thing is I always try to make sure that we come through for the homeowner because God forbid that I set them up in a bad situation. They're thinking their home's being sold and it's not. So I'll actually come through and purchase homes, but there's absolutely been homes that I've lost money on. I
Yeah.
purchased them and making sure we come through on our end for the people. So that definitely happens. The biggest loss though in my business though has been not systematized and tracked marketing.
Yeah.
That is where that's where I've lost the most money by far. Um, just know if you do want to dump into something like this and you do want to do that marketing and dump a whole bunch of money into marketing, just know you have to be very, very systematized, tracked, and watch everything when it comes to your marketing. I learned these lessons the hard ways when for instance, I was running a direct mail campaign and I wasn't tracking my numbers in a certain area because I wanted to buy houses in a certain area. Wasn't tracking my numbers, and I realized that it was just mixed in with a whole bunch of other campaigns. What I realized was I had been mailing this campaign for, let's say, 3 months, I believe it was, with no results whatsoever, and just keep on pumping it without tweaking it. That's $15,000 I lost right there without even paying attention.
Well, in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, we talk about red light, green light, right? Holding your money accountable. So when you do your
Yep,
mailers out there, you know your numbers. If you're at 0.74 in one area and then you do a different area with a different postcard, you might get 1.2. Well, at that point,
yep,
hey, let's do postcard B and see if 1.2 is consistent. So constantly tweaking, constantly changing call to action, constantly changing the geographical area, who you're targeting
yep,
to
yep.
maximize that. Well, hey man, congratulations on the pivot because not too long ago you were a sales agent assisting another team and you
I was a
went
buyer's
solo.
agent. Yep.
Yeah, you were a buyer's agent and you went off and did solo. And was this always your vision or did you fall into it?
This was absolutely always, well, investors in general was always my vision. So towards the tail end of me being on the team, I had my best year in real estate. I had sold I don't even remember exactly how many homes I had sold, but around 80% of them I had not even seen
Hmm.
because I prepared these analysis for these investors, and I was working with a lot of out of state investors at the time, and just selling them properties based on the numbers. It's my best year in real estate, and then from there I just started saying, well, hey, what would this look like if I actually started sourcing these myself instead of scouring the MLS for them? And 2 years
Yeah.
later, here I am.
And you're an investor yourself, and I'm in the middle
Correct.
of ready to launch a whole book club where I'll be going through chapter by chapter, breaking it down, talking with our audience of going, this is how holding properties can build wealth, uh, specifically, and even in this market, that's extremely a seller's market. There are still opportunities. You're living proof of that, man. Is there anything else, closing thoughts that you want to share with our audience who might be listening to this? Just around the whole genre of wholesaling.
Yeah. So with the whole genre of wholesaling, I will say it is one of the most rewarding things that I've done, and I'll be very transparent with you as well. It pays extremely well, what we do and the profits that we make, but just know that the wholesaling and people get addicted to the wholesaling and the fast cash of it. Just know that wholesaling is not a sustainable or a longevity play. It is for you to get yourself in a certain position to be able to do the other investing and the more sustainable stuff, the passive income that you're talking about, the holding of the properties. So if anybody ever wants to do this, just make sure you have a plan that you're actually getting yourself out of this game as well, because it is not going to last forever.
Yeah, that's great wisdom. And we talked about that in the past with some flippers we've had on here. And they said, look, you flip to create capital to buy and hold. And when you need more capital, you wholesale. When you need more capital, you flip. Then you take that capital and buy and hold, whether it's commercial, multiplex,
Exactly.
duplex, single family, anything else. All right, man. Well, this is
Exactly.
a great segment in addition to our investor series here, so I appreciate you always. And anyone else out there, if you guys want to get a hold of Desmond, again, it's Desmond at myencore.com. Did I get that right? MyEncore,
MyEncoreTeam.com.
myencoreteam.com. And please reach out to him if you've got anybody who wants to sell their house, or if you know of somebody who maybe wants to help them out in other markets like Jacksonville, Tampa, or statewide, and I imagine eventually nationwide. So thanks again, man. I'm Rick Bosley. This is the Orlando Homeowner Show. We'll see you next week. We're going to do real estate by the numbers. The real estate market is continuing to grow 1% to 2% every month. What does this mean for buyers and sellers out there, and how are we doing it with appraisers? It's a fun conversation. So we're going to talk about and deep dive into the numbers next week. So we'll see you Wednesday at 12:15. Take care, everyone.